Chapter 221, Unlocking Space Attribute. Ding, you accepted the hidden quest. Ding, you opened the credit limit system. 150,000 credits added to the limit. Ding, you unlocked the unique weapons category. Everything except the unique items section has been locked. Ding, platinum grade purification stone was purchased. 50,000 credits were reduced from the credit limit. Ding, the purification store was sent to the inventory. Ding, your remaining credit limit is 110,000 credits. Open inventory. Mark took out a brightly glowing stone and inspected it. Purification stone. Grade platinum. Effect. 1. Removes all debuffs from the target. 2. The target can be a living or non-living thing. 3. Removes any type of seal on the target, as long as it is of general grade and lower. 4. If the target is a living being, restore the vitality and ether energy, max, peak 6 circle. 5. If the target is a non-living thing, restore its condition to its peak max, platinum grade. Note, this is a one-time use item and can only be used on a single target. Disappears after usage. The effects are quite good, but it is a pity to spend so much of credits on a one-time use item. Anyway, it was already bought. There's no use in thinking about it now. I should get to work, but there's no hurry to wake up the king. First, let's shop a little bit. What do I lack? I have an amulet to improve my magic power. I have a glove to improve my creation rate. I have 2 powerful unique skills and 2 bloodline skills. I have 2 powerful androids to follow my orders and protect my life. Apart from that, there's howitzer that can take out 7 circle from the ground and an attack helicopter that can take out my enemies from the air. After this quest, I will get something to attack from water too. So what do I lack now? Mark thought for a while about whether he can buy something now that he has enough credit limit left. Last time, when he had about 74k credits, he thought of buying an attribute but backed down because of facing the reality. However, now, the situation is different. He can afford 2 more basic attributes or 1 variant attribute or an advanced attribute. As soon as the thought appeared in his mind, Mark made the decision and went ahead with the purchase. Open store. The list of categories appeared. Only bloodlines is grayed out. Mark clicked on attributes. Basic, 50,000 credits. Fire, water, earth, lightning, owned, wind, light, dark. Variant, 75,000 credits. Metal, shadow, sound, space, magnet, crystal, gravity. Advanced, 100,000 credits. Ice, owned, wood, poison, plasma, lava, storm, glass, acid, sand. Super advanced, 1 million credits. Not available, reach level 6 system to unlock. Super advanced. This option wasn't there before. Well, it doesn't matter either way. The system is still at level 3. To get to level 4, I need 1 million gold coins worth of transactions, which I will acquire soon. For level 5, it might be 5 million or even 10 million. And to get level 6, I wonder how much it will be needed. By that time, maybe, the credit limit will increase to 1 million, but it isn't something that I should worry about now. Let's focus on the present. His eyes then shifted to the variant section. Mark could buy any attribute in the list, but his eyes were fixed on only one. Okay, here we go. He clicked on the attribute that he wanted to buy and proceed with the purchase. Ding, you purchased the space attribute. 75,000 credits have been reduced from the credit limit. Ding, your remaining credit limit is 35,000 credits. Ding, space attribute has been integrated into the character. Ding, spirit path is detected as a summoner. No space attribute beasts exist in the system. Ding, error. No space attribute beasts. You damn. Mark was stunned by the notification, feeling as if he was conned by his system. As a person who experienced the punishment for the use of profanity language directed at the system, he barely managed to swallow the words. However, he won't back down either. After all, it's 75k credits, equaling 375k gold coins. Just as he was about to protest, the system probably thought of the solution and sent him a notification. Ding, mandatory quest for the second spirit path has been triggered. Quest, awaken second spirit path. Description: a few attributes like space or sound don't have corresponding beasts and are not recommended for the summoner path. To solve the issue, the host had to awaken the second spirit path. Complete the following tasks to awaken the second spirit path. 1. Sell a firearm, which wasn't designed or manufactured by the system. 2. Upgrade the system to level 4. 3. Improve the ether energy points to reach a minimum of 100,000. 4. Sell at least one weapon of every type that can be mass-produced by the system, excluding exclusive weapons. Reward: choose Mage Assassin. The quest made him a lot calmer than before. The system proved that it was fair, but for Mark, this is an opportunity in misfortune. Since it is going to take a while to complete all the tasks, Mark put aside the matter and returned his focus to the old man. After receiving the instructions from the system, he proceeded to place the purification stone on the forehead of the old man, where the seal is present, and poured ether energy into it. The purification stone turned into specks of light before disappearing into the seal. The process only took 10 seconds for the seal to disappear. The king abruptly opened his eyes, almost instantly, feeling healthy all of a sudden. Ding, you completed the quest. Unique skill seal breaker has been added to the skill list. Where am I? A loud voice escaped from his mouth as he sat on the bed. He looked around. Mark was about to greet him, but before that, the king's eyes fell on him and he gasped in shock, taking the young man by surprise by uttering, "Lan Jenkson." The king hurriedly shook his head. "No, that's not possible. Brother Jenkson was dead long ago. Am I in a dream, or maybe this is the afterlife?" He looked around once again and asked himself, "But why does it look like I'm in some inn? A king sleeping in such a place. What kind of prison is this?" Mark didn't know that this king knows his maternal grandfather and was even close enough to address him as brother. But then again, if one thinks about it, the Lan clan used to be located in Kunyu Mountains on some peak, and Western Yan shares border with Western Moon Kingdom. So it is not a surprise if they know each other. "Hello, Your Majesty." He greeted the king and brought him to the reality. "First, this isn't a dream, and second, I'm not Lan Jenkson. My name is Lu Zhen and I'm from the imperial city of Phoenix Empire. Can you tell me what the last thing you remember?" "Not Jenkson. And this is reality." The king once again looked around and then at himself in linen clothes, which can be considered a worthless outfit in his eyes. But at the moment, he doesn't want to think about such unnecessary matters and focused on the young man who shared similar traits with an old acquaintance of his. He focused on recalling his memories. All of a sudden, several memories hit him. He grabbed his head and a look of shock appeared on his face before it turned into anger. "That's right. That traitorous bastard Shen Qiu stabbed me in the back as I was retreating. Even my wife conspired together with him to poison me. And Supreme General Gong, how dare he lead a coup against me in the first place? I'll kill every one of them." "Whoa, wait for a second, Your Majesty." Mark got some clarity on the matter and he right away reminded the king, "This is the year 1786 of Ether Era. It's been a decade since the coup." The king was taken aback. "I slept for a decade." Mark continued, "I don't know what happened a decade ago, but I found you at Qincheng prison with a seal over your body and consciousness. I had to use my precious treasure to bring you back as it is placed by some legendary realm expert." The year 1786, Qincheng prison. The king, who came back to his senses, became dazed once again. It's a little bit difficult for him to comprehend what Mark had told him just now. Chapter 222. Was Shen Qiu a puppet of the queen? As Mark spoke about what he knows so far, the king collapsed on the bed and grabbed his forehead. "Sai, I thought those traitors wanted to kill me but didn't expect that Shen Qiu will take advantage of our identical appearances and is living my life. Perhaps it would have been possible because of my wife. Now that I think about it, the Church of Doom might be also behind this, considering my late father-in-law was an elder in that organization. If it is the case, then I couldn't fight them. Either way, I don't care about my life. I have lived long enough. My only worry is my daughter. She was only 16 years old back then, must have grown up into a fine woman by now. If I reveal myself, what if they take her hostage? As the king lamented how everything went wrong because of his blind trust, Mark gained considerable information, and everything slowly became clear, although there's still a mystery left. Why did they imprison him after sending him into a coma? Isn't killing an easy way to remove him from the path? Do they have a big grudge against the king? Or is it because the king is a close person to either of them? Whatever might the case, Mark's worry about the queen's honor was gone. He doesn't need to care about it any longer. On the other hand, the waters above ahead looked very deep. He wasn't sure whether it is worth making an enemy out of a supreme-level being. It's not like he has fewer enemies at present. After thinking for a while in the end, Mark decided to take a roundabout approach instead of just taking the king to the palace and starting a massacre. Looking at the saddened old king, he said, "Your Majesty, do you wish to see your daughter in person? I can bring Princess Shen to you." As soon as Mark said those words, the king's facial expression changed. He looked as if he regained hope. "Really? I guess I owe you again. Okay, until I return, my brother Alan will be by your side. I request you to not wander anywhere in the meantime." Mark left behind the android to keep an eye on this quest target, and he left for Lunaris City in his LMV at the fastest speed after getting directions from the owner of the inn. Royal Palace, Lunaris City. After finishing the urgent meeting with the ministers, Shen Qiu returned to the king's chamber. However, there was someone waiting for him there. It's the queen. "Dear, you are up already." He let out a fake smile upon seeing the queen. However, the latter didn't bother to put on any appearances like him. She appeared to have a serious expression on her face. She replied, "I want to speak to you alone, your majesty." The servants were quite surprised at her behavior. Everyone in the city knew that the queen was usually a timid woman who never speak against the king, but only these servants of the palace knew that from time to time, she gets serious with him, and when she does that, the king would eventually either take back a royal decree on something or announce a new policy in the following days. Meanwhile, Shen Qiu was also curious. He wondered whether it is linked with the attack on Qincheng prison or it is something else. After sending away all the servants from the room and locking the door, he asked her. Maintaining her serious look, the queen then said, "I received a message from Elder Zai. The doom seal placed on him had disappeared." "Who are you talking about?" Shen Qiu furrowed his brows. At first he didn't get it, but then suddenly it clicked in his mind. The attack on Qincheng prison and the disappearance of the seal, his eyes widened upon realization. Did he escape from the prison? How is it possible? Except for you, me, and the elders of the church, no one knows about it. As Shen Qiu refused to believe that his brother could escape in that condition, and neither could outsider knows of the location unless it was leaked from the organization, he said, "Maybe, it's possible that he passed away. You know, the seal also disappears when one is dead." His words appeared to have a negative effect on the queen. The old woman stormed forward and caught his collar. Surprisingly, a seven-circle necromancer like him was easily lifted up high in the air with her frail-looking arm. As he caught her arm and his feet started kicking the empty air, the queen spoke sternly. "I told you long ago, and I will warn you again. If you dared to speak of the death of my loved one, I will cut you into 1,000 pieces and serve you for our Lord Taudi." Shen Qiu's face paled at her warning and he nodded vigorously. "I apologize for my tongue slip. Please forgive me." As the queen loosened her grip, he fell to the floor. She then said in a commanding tone, "Leave for the Qincheng prison right away and check the situation yourself. If he is still in prison, then it's all right. If not, then find his whereabouts." "Yes." Shen Qiu hurriedly left the room and the queen took a seat, grabbing her head. "If Shen Niu returns, then everything I worked hard for the past decade will be gone. No matter what, I need to fulfill my mission and resurrect the ancestor." Roughly after 3 hours, Princess Shen Ling, who dolled up herself, left the room and went to check upon Mark. However, to her surprise, the soldiers informed her about the disappearance of Mark and Alan before giving her a scroll. Thankfully, He had thought of the issue and left behind a letter in the room before he accepted the quest. The princess read the letter, which stated that he was leaving for a morning ride in his vehicle to tour around the kingdom and will return by lunch for sure. She was visibly disappointed as she intended to take him for a tour around the city, but what can she do when the guest isn't there in the first place? The princess returned to her room, throwing away the jewelry. "Lei Pijai, tell my mother that I won't attend breakfast. I'm not in a mood to eat." After sending away one of her maids to inform her mother, Shen Ling took a history book from the shelf and took a seat on the balcony before engrossing herself in the story of the Kui Empire's prince from the 11th century. It tells how an illegitimate son, who was born from an emperor and the maid of a sixth concubine, managed to remove all the imperial princes from his path and become the emperor at the age of 36. Unfortunately, he could only rule for barely 3 years before he died due to a rare illness that he was suffering from the birth. Another 4 hours passed away. Just like he stated in the letter, Mark had managed to return to the royal palace by noon. After having a nice shower and changing his clothes, Mark proceeded towards the dining hall for the lunch. He planned to ask her out on a date after lunch so that she can reunite with her father ahead of his reascension to the throne. Chapter 223. Lin Zhu spars against Song Tai, the Song clan ancestor. Meanwhile, somewhere in Qing province of the Phoenix Empire, there's a large estate containing stables of several types of beasts, ranging from common horses to even a giant fire-breathing salamander, which is a 7-circle beast king. Behind the huge mansion also lies a large ground where a pretty woman was in the middle of a sword fight against a dignified-looking old man. For the past couple of days, Lin Zhu was visiting this place as a normal acquaintance, although with a secret intention to convince this ancestor of the Song clan in helping out her best friend. However, because Mark was skeptical about it and expressed his worry during their lunch meeting, a small doubt developed inside her heart on whether he might side with Song Yun instead of Song Yue. So she planned on taking a word from him. The clueless old man agreed to fulfill her wish as long as she would best him in a sword battle where he would also suppress his cultivation to her level, low 5 circle. Unfortunately for her, his skills were vastly superior to Lin Zhu, who had reached the level of a swordmaster. After failing twice, she decided to reveal one of her trump cards. Lightning sparks were dancing all over her body and the sword, but her ether energy wasn't being consumed in the slightest. It is the pure attribute power. It is said that only 1 in every 100,000 spirit warriors could be born with such talent. That would mean, in the whole world, the number of people who can use attribute energy like her could be counted with fingers. Song Tai, the ancestor of the Song clan, was impressed by her talent, although he felt it was still incomplete. He doesn't know what she wants, but at the very least, he decided to help her in finishing the technique. Lin Zhu realized that sparring with Song Tai was found to be more beneficial than Alan. Well, it's natural. After all, the dignified old man is rumored to be in the peak stage of the legendary realm and has lived for nearly 150 years. However, Lin Zhu, for some reason, felt sad instead of getting happier. In her view, Alan was the best skilled warrior she had ever met, and she wanted it to be that way. Why though? She doesn't have any idea yet. But then again, it isn't the time to think about such useless things. She was here for Song Yue, and she should accomplish her task no matter what. Time passed away. The sun was slowly coming down. It was about to be sunset, and she will be forced to stop then and visit the next day. The old man looked like he was a bit tired, not physically but mentally. Even if he is a grandmaster swordsman, he is still old and doesn't have an interest in winning. In a desperate attempt to not waste the opportunity, Lin Zhu went all out, pulling out a semi-divine grade sword from her storage ring. She unleashed the technique she had never shown in the public or against any other spirit warrior. Torrent of the Lightning Dragon. She spun around and unleashed a powerful torrent of lightning energy toward her opponent. The torrent of energy transformed into a wingless, limbless dragon as it went towards the target. If one doesn't know the cultivation level of Lin Zhu, just by the attack alone, They would think that she is at the peak stage of the sixth circle realm. Song Tai's face turned into that of a surprise, not because of its shape or power but mainly due to its speed. It was too fast. He had two options: crush it with his mighty strength or evade the attack by using his real speed. In an instant, he realized that he cannot suppress his strength any longer unless he too takes out his semi-divine grade weapon, but that will not look good for his reputation. Song Tai let out a sigh as he stretched his arm. Scarlet ether energy covered his hand before becoming bigger. As the lightning dragon reached him, he caught it and destroyed it with ease. Her strongest attack was destroyed, but a smile appeared on Lin Zhu's face. "Thank you for letting me win, Lord Song." As Song Tai broke the rule of suppressing his strength to 5 circle, it was his loss. Looking at her, Song Tai said, "You have been showing patience for 3 days. It must be very important for you. Fine, as long as it isn't extreme, I will do my best to fulfill your wish. Even if it involves the destruction of a powerful sect, I will gladly do it. Tell me." Lin Zhu replied with a serious look, "I think it is better to talk inside." "All right," Song Tai nodded, and it didn't take long for him to learn about the situation his descendant was in. The ancestor of the Song clan could understand why Lin Zhu sought her help, and also why she hesitated in opening up the matter before taking a word from him. In the end, he agreed to fulfill her wish, and both of them started their journey to the imperial city. While everything was going well for Lin Zhu at the Phoenix Empire, in the independent kingdom of Western Moon, the goddess of luck also smiled on Mark, with the princess accepting his invitation to the city of Zhisheng for the grand surprise. He had actually expected her to turn down the invitation because they are strangers, and the king isn't also in the city at the moment. Anything can happen to her. However, not only did she readily accept his invitation, but she only took a few royal knights with her. The strongest of them is only at the elementary stage of the sixth circle realm. For a princess, who was touted to be the smartest person in the Western Moon Kingdom, wasn't she too gullible? Mark couldn't understand her thought process. And the biggest question here is, why does the queen let her go just like that? Even if she's evil, she should care for her daughter, right? Maybe she isn't her biological mother. Or maybe she's like his mother, who can sacrifice her son for her selfish gains. Mark had several questions in his mind, but then he thought that none of those mattered. For him, at the moment, only the quest and its rewards matter. Chapter 224. Shen Ling reunites with her father. As the royal knights rode on top-quality horses, the princess comfortably sat next to Mark as he drove the vehicle. She traveled in a horse carriage, rode on a wild horse, a spirit beast rhino, and even a drake, but the feeling was a lot different when she sat in LMV. As he drove toward the city of Zhisheng, while stopping once midway for refueling, she calmly observed everything to understand how the vehicle works. By the time they reached the destination, it was already around dusk. Mark had driven the vehicle back and forth between the cities with only a lunch break. As a summoner with low physical strength, he is naturally tired. After dropping her off at the most luxurious hotel in the city, Mark told her that they will meet at a restaurant named Quanjude, which is popular for its duck dish. He further added that someone will join them at the dinner. When he said that, Shen Ling's eyes widened for some reason, and she hurriedly grabbed his hand in front of the royal knights, the hotel manager who came to greet them, and the passers-by who are eager to see their princess. "Don't leave. Take me with you." Mark was taken aback by her response. Maybe he was mistaken, but for that one moment, he saw a look of anxiousness on her. Remembering all of her actions until now, Mark truly wondered whether this princess had fallen for him or something. Meanwhile, the princess realized her words could instill misunderstandings in the minds of the listeners. She freed him and cleared her throat. "You are an important guest of our palace. I think it's improper for me to stay here while you stay in some ordinary inn. I and our royal knights will go with you. If we are going to meet again after a couple of hours, we might as well leave together for the restaurant." Is that so? Mark fell into thoughts. Since he is going to reunite the father and daughter, the place doesn't matter anyway. He only told Alan to book the entire restaurant for convenience. Now, Mark felt like he wasted 500 gold coins for nothing. "As you wish, Princess Shen." He let out a smile and opened the door, gesturing for her to get inside. After giving an apology to the hotel manager, the princess left with Mark, leaving behind the stunned audience. Soon, the royal knights followed behind. Looking at their backs, the hotel manager mumbled, "What is the identity of that young lord who is making the princess act like this? Was he a prince of northern empires to be engaged to her?" After driving for more than half an hour, they reached a place on the outskirts of the city. But it wasn't an inn. Instead, they arrived at an abandoned cathedral. It used to be where the believers of the Church of Light used to worship, but now it is nothing but filled with dust and spider webs. As for why Mark had taken her to this specific place, it's because he was new to this city and doesn't know much. All he needs is a quiet place, and he happened to hear about it. Mark escorted her inside the cathedral, along with her trusted royal knights. In the church hall, Alan appeared to stand nearby a mysterious person who wore black robes and covered his head with a hood. The footsteps alerted the king, and he got up on his feet to turn around while lowering down the hood, revealing his face to the visitors. The royal knights were visibly surprised to see their king, although with an aged look, long white beard, and disheveled long white hair that almost reached the waist. "Is it Shen Qiu, the valiant grand prince who sacrificed himself 2 decades ago during Dungeon Break?" All of the spectators had the same thoughts, well, except for one, the princess. Tears quickly filled the eyes of Shen Ling as she rushed forward while screaming, "Father!" The royal knights were shocked again. This time even Mark was surprised. How did she know? As the father and daughter hugged while crying in happiness before engaging in a conversation about how she missed him all the years and apologized for being able to save him from the deadly prison, realization dawned upon Mark. Now, everything made sense, her actions and her words. It only indicates that she knew that the current king is an impostor. Well, this will work in my favor if I play my cards right. Meanwhile, the royal knights don't know how to react. It isn't easy to believe that this old man is their real king, and the current one is an impostor. Only their captain, who was serving the palace for 18 years, felt emotional and believed the truth that appeared before his eyes. After a while, everyone settled down in the church hall, and Mark asked her how she knew about this matter to clarify his suspicions. Her father also looked at her for the answer. Shen Ling explained to them how she managed to pick up things like how Shen Qiu kept his distance from her mother, how his policies and behavior were too much different from before, how he kept her away from Lunaris City as much as possible, and most importantly, how he showered love on her cousin too much. Small things accumulated and made her believe that it wasn't her father. Once I realized that it was my uncle all along, I began to wonder whether my father is alive or dead. Then, one day, roughly about 6 years ago, an envoy from the Church of Doom arrived at the royal court. Maybe she has some issues with Uncle Shen and my mother, or maybe the organization has internal disputes. I don't know for sure. While leaving, she secretly passed me a note, which not only has the information on my father but also stated a prophecy. It speaks of a man blessed by an ancient divine beast who will arrive at our land and somehow change the fate of the kingdom. And the first change will be the return of its real king. I waited for several years, but nothing happened. I took the task of saving my father into my hands, but only faced failure continuously more than 20 times. All the hired spirit warriors were mercilessly killed. If not for the fact that my uncle was keeping an eye on my finances, I would have attempted to hire Exalt Realm experts from the northern empires. But now, after seeing my father, I believe it was speaking of you, all along. From the bottom of my heart, once again, I thank you for saving my father. From her words, Mark understood one thing for sure. Church of Doom shouldn't be taken lightly. Along with strength, they appeared to guess the events happening in the kingdom. The one who can predict the future is always terrifying because people will attempt to change it as they fit it. Putting aside his thoughts, he waved his hands with a smile. "Keep your thanks for later, Princess Shen. The task is still incomplete. Now, we have to get His Majesty back to his rightful position. although I doubt your mother and uncle will let it happen in a peaceful way. I will not spare those two traitors." The king growled in anger as he clenched his fist. It was at that moment, all of a sudden, a spiral portal opened in the center of the hall, alerting everyone. An elderly woman in pure white robes stepped outside. There was a wooden staff in her hand. A blue orb was embedded at the head part of the staff. It is currently glowing. On her other hand, there's a crystal ball, which looked like something that fortune-tellers who claim themselves as seers would use. Landing on the ground, she looked around before stopping her gaze at the king, and then at Mark. "I guess I'm at the right place after all." Like others, Mark was also alerted. He didn't waste time activating the Sage Eyes ability. Gu Ye. Race human. Age 39. Rank 6 Circle Peak. Spirit Path Seer May. Attribute Space Wind. Affiliation Western Moon Kingdom. Description: a talented spirit warrior who had an affinity with two attributes. Unlike with other people, her background wasn't mentioned in the description, so it wasn't known to the public. Mark was relaxed a lot once he realized that she is of no threat with her low cultivation. At the same time, he was also surprised at her unique spirit path and her age. As he wondered about her identity and purpose, Princess Shen Ling pointed her finger at the stranger with a look of surprise on her face. "It's you, the elder from the Church of Doom." Chapter 225. Gu Ye, a seer from the Church of Doom. It was only a moment ago the princess was talking about the elder of the Church of Doom, who helped her in finding out the truth. And suddenly, this person is here at the abandoned church, standing before everyone, and that too came uninvited. People who think it is just a coincidence were fools. As the princess confirmed her identity, the latter dismissed her staff and said, "Relax, I came in peace." She then turned her body towards the king and bowed with her left hand on her chest. "Greetings, your majesty. It appears that you are great in health and even had your cultivation restored. Not that I expected, considering you were sealed by none other than Elder Liao." She then turned her head, this time, toward Mark with a curious look. "Forgive my rudeness, but are you the one who broke the seal?" Mark furrowed his brows in response. "For someone who appeared out of nowhere, you sure ask a lot of questions without even introducing yourself." He knows her real name and age, but the others don't. Not to mention, for some reason, he felt like she doesn't think much of everyone even though she wasn't even at the doorstep of Exalt Realm. Does she have the confidence, or does she have great backing? Mark couldn't help but wonder after reprimanding her. "Oh, pardon my manners." The lady, upon realizing the truth, apologized in a calm tone and then introduced herself. "My name is Gu Ye and I'm an elder of the Church of Doom." "Okay, if you tell us how did you find us or what are your intentions, it will be nice to proceed with the conversation." As soon as she introduced herself, Mark didn't waste any time getting clarity on the situation. He was also curious of why someone from the Church of Doom is helping out them in the first place, and it appeared as if she was doing this in secret, keeping it from her organization. It is indeed suspicious. Maybe she had expected the question. Gu Ye answered him without taking her time to think. "I'm a seer. I had prophesied where you are going to end up. As for my intentions, I'm here to see with my own eyes whether the destined one in the prophecy is here or not. If you are the one, then I want to talk to you in private. So, I ask you again. Are you the one who unsealed the king?" Mark didn't know what this 39-year-old woman who looked like she is in her 70s wanted with him, but at the very least, he can hear what she has to say and decide what he wants to do. He nodded in confirmation and also revealed the truth. "Since I cannot repel it using force, I had to use a purification stone on the king." Purification stone. Never heard of such stone that can remove the seals and restore cultivation. Is it an otherworldly item? The seer mumbled as she fell into thoughts for a while. After a brief silence, she said to him, "Then, can you please use an ability of your bloodline?" "Bloodline? For your confirmation." Mark was no fool. It was clear to him why she was making such a request, but it is more important for him is whether he could gain anything or not. Something told him that this thing might lead to another quest. But at the same time, there was also a worry in his head. If the woman can ascertain his bloodline just by his skill, then wouldn't his connection to Lan clan be revealed? Yes, before I confirm that you are the one from the prophecy, I cannot divulge the details. As Guya was taking this matter very seriously, Mark also spoke his intentions. Not here, Miss Gu. I don't want people to get caught up in my demonstration, and neither do I trust a stranger that I can follow to some unknown place. So, keeping this in mind, suggest a solution. Mark indirectly told her that he cannot demonstrate his powers in front of others. Weak and old the king might be, but Shen Niu is still the ruler of the kingdom, and he cannot be kicked out by anyone. As he wondered what she will reply with, Guya resummoned her staff. I understand. I will set up a spatial field around us. The blue orb glowed once again, forming a pitch-black colored barrier around them. From the outside, the barrier only looked like it enveloped both of them, but inside the barrier, Mark saw that the area inside the barrier was expanded by 100 times. He couldn't help but remember his store, and then wondered whether he could also do it once he awakened the second spirit path. So are you ready? Guya asked him. Mark came out of his senses and nodded. Absolute freezing, activate. In an instant, everything inside the barrier was frozen. Even the mage wasn't spared. The pitch-black dome-shaped barrier suddenly turned into an ice dome, bewildering the spectators. The king got up in shock as some past memories hit him. This ice, it is different from other ice magic. The temperature in the surroundings doesn't have any impact on this ice, no doubt about it. It is the same as Lan Jenkson's bloodline ability, and there's his resemblance to him. Is he related to him? Mark had made a blunder this time. He overestimated the spatial barrier and thought that the outsiders wouldn't have any idea about his ability. Of course, it isn't that he planned to keep his ice ability any secret, but he doesn't want those abilities to look like bloodline skills. Upon considering the intelligence of Shen Ling and Shen Niu's acquaintanceship with Lan Jenkson, Mark doesn't want them to witness his ice skills in person, but Gu Ya's weak crowd control ability now had defeated his purpose. I guess I fucked up. Mark realized the blunder he had made. So instead of making his way out of the place, he just stayed on the spot in silence, waiting for the time to run out. About 80 seconds later, the ice disappeared and Gu Ya was freed. Surprisingly, the spatial field reappeared. It looks as if nothing happened 2 minutes ago. Originally, it was supposed to last for 120 seconds, but her higher cultivation and the spatial field's higher power reduced the time. Upon being freed, Gu Ya stepped back in surprise with a little mixture of fear. She said, I have only read about this ability in the records, but it's the first time I experienced it in person. Earlier, when trapped under ice, she tried her best to get free. Her ether energy couldn't break it. For the past 80 seconds, she felt helpless, and it is a scary experience for her. Adding on top of that, the temperature was below -100 degrees. If not for the fact that she protected her body from it, Guya felt like her aged physical body wouldn't have lasted against the freezing. As a result, she would have probably died. After forcing herself to calm down, Guya nodded. The bloodline of ancient divine beast, Blizzard Pegasus. You are indeed the person I was looking for, mister. I'm sorry, but I forgot to ask your name earlier. Lu Zhen informed Mark before asking about her objective. Guya then answered, Before I tell you my objective, let me tell you a small story of a late leader of the Lan sect, Lan Jenkson, and his monster pet, an ancient beast named Zheng. Chapter 226, Inheritance Left by Grandfather. Zheng is a 5-tailed leopard monster native to a place called the Undying Lands. The female species is called Enning. Roughly about 50 years ago, Lan Jenkson, along with his acquaintances, who were originally expelled from the ancient Lan sect, came to the western Yan and settled down at the Kunyu mountain range, where a branch of the Lan sect is already located. All of a sudden, the Lan sect's strength grew leaps and bounds, forcing the emperors, kings, and other organizations to have a good relationship with them. That is completely another matter to discuss, so I will come to the main subject. Anyway, these new members who took over the Lan sect didn't come with empty hands. They brought a Zheng cub with them. It is a beast emperor. It's highly possible that they have stolen or they might not. It doesn't matter. What matters is that it is still alive and is currently guarding its master's grave. Nearly 30 years ago, when Land Sect was destroyed because of a 9-star dungeon break, the 22-year-old Zheng was at a 5 circle, and over time, its strength increased to 9 circle. Our Church of Doom is attempting to subdue it for a long time, but even our Supreme Pontiff isn't strong enough. Now, coming to the prophecy. While I couldn't see your exact face because it is all blurry, but I see a young man who was mounted on top of a large leopard with 5 tails and has some sort of cat on his shoulders. All over him, I felt the aura of a Pegasus that suppresses even beast emperors. And this man will bring the glory to our church, along with the Western Moon Kingdom. Now that I confirmed your bloodline, I feel like everything is pointed to you. I'm willing to take a chance. After all, we don't have much time. Ding, you triggered a hidden quest. Quest, Inheritance of Lan Jingxin. Description: as a direct descendant who inherited the Blizzard Pegasus, it is your right to inherit his unclaimed inheritance. Capture the pet that he left behind. Reward: Missile Defense System, upgradable. Accept. Man, another hidden quest. They are popping one after another. Mark would usually be happy if there's such a tempting reward, but the difficulty of the quest made him doubt whether he can complete this quest. First of all, the target was a beast emperor, and second, it was in 9 circle. That means it is the same as battling a demigod. The beast would probably leave him alive upon learning that he is the grandson of Lan Jingxin, but submitting itself to him. Mark doesn't have confidence. If that's the case, why should he take the risk? But at the same time, Mark also knew that this quest doesn't have any time limit. So he decided to accept, but without any intentions to complete it until he was strong enough. Even if it fails and someone else manages to capture it or kill it in the future, Mark wouldn't lose anything either way. Ding, you accepted the quest. Once he accepted the quest, he nodded. Okay, I'll try and see if I can subdue it. Thank you for informing me. It's my pleasure, she forced a smile. It was at that moment Mark found her expression strange. Something else clicked in his mind and he called her out as she was about to remove the barrier. Wait for a second, Miss Gu. As she looked at him, Mark proceeded to ask, why do I feel like you are hiding something? After all, even if I subdue the Beast Emperor, I will gain a powerful pet, but what will you gain from this? We are strangers. What makes you think that I will help this kingdom and bring glory to your church in this land? Who knows? I might even use this beast against your organization. Mark was logical in his statement, and Guya also knew that it was possible, but she appeared to be helpless in this situation. She let out a sigh in response and revealed the truth. I don't have any choice but to take a leap of faith. Some of the elders of our church are conspiring with the Queen to resurrect her ancestor, who is our founder, using an ancient sacrificing ritual within a year. Even the Supreme Pontiff is involved. Once the news of King Shen Niu's return is out, they might speed up the process. The life of 10 million people is at stake now. If you were able to subdue the beast and reveal your alliance with the royal palace of Western Moon, the undertaking might be stopped. For the sake of innocent citizens, I need your help. She clenched her fists before making a deep bow. On the other hand, Mark received one more quest from the system. This one appears to be at the same level as accomplishing the earlier quest. Ding, you triggered a mandatory hidden quest. Quest: stop the undertaking. Description: the Church of Doom is planning to sacrifice 10 million citizens of the Western Moon Kingdom to resurrect the founder of the Church of Doom. Stop the ritual by killing the current Supreme Pontiff openly. Time limit: 324 days, can be reduced at any time. Reward: Battle Android Rank 7. Quest failure: the deaths of millions of innocents, loss of Zheng, chaos in the continent of Vermilion Bird, destruction of independent kingdoms, a possible alliance between the empires, and the host's business might get affected depending on the situation. Mark doesn't even know to react now. A mandatory quest, and there are consequences of quest failure. He felt like he ran off his mouth unnecessarily. Obviously, the reward is very tempting, but the quest is something that is out of his capabilities. Well, as long as he takes an advancement pill, the Thunderblast would be able to kill the Supreme Pontiff, who is rumored to be in the Nine-Circle realm. Using the clone, he could also defeat the Elders. However, the biggest problem here lies in his defense. The spirit warriors under Seven Circle aren't at risk, but the above-realm experts have certain skills to even strike him before he makes a move. Moreover, he only has 2 trump cards. What if this Supreme Pontiff guy would protect himself with skill against his Thunderblast and makes a counterattack? If his attacks failed, neither his attack helicopter nor his howitzer PHZ-2000 would be able to shield him. He can only depend on the Manticore, the Beast King of the 8-Circle realm. Even if he convinces it to protect him, will it be a match for a Supreme Realm expert? Mark doesn't want to take any gambles. That means he was left with 2 options to complete the quest. First, the Beast Emperor pet of his grandfather, and second, the Peak Potion. The Peak Potion is entirely up to the chance, and it isn't easy to form a contract with a Beast Emperor either. That means he needs to depend on the potion to increase his strength and force Zhang Beast to admit loyalty to him. And then, he uses the beast to kill the Supreme Pontiff of the Church of Doom. That means everything now depends on the lottery wheel. Well, what can Mark do? He could only sigh and tells her again that he will see what he can do. Guya was also clear on what she was asking, but she was also helpless here. After all, she doesn't have any solution to the problem except to put her trust in this stranger. Chapter 227, Family Deserves a Second Chance. After removing the spatial field, Guya greeted the king once again and left the place by using the portal, leaving behind curious people. Mark chose to keep silent on the matter as he thought it will only cause unnecessary panic, and they aren't strong enough to stop what was coming. If they were close enough, they too tried to push him into divulging the matter, but as they barely know each other, the king and the princess didn't ask him again once he refused to speak about his discussion with the elder of the Church of Doom. Putting aside the future quests, for now, Mark focused on the present and asked the king, "Your Majesty, how may I help you in reclaiming the throne?" The king turned to his daughter, who was wise and intelligent enough to advise him, even when she was only 13 years old. Princess Shen Ling thought for a bit and explained her strategy. Harsh and sometimes reckless his policies might be, I should agree that Uncle was a good administrator. Even the happiness index of the Lunaris city rose considerably. We are also doing great in the economy because of foreign traders. So, storming into the palace and making a ruckus would only cause unnecessary panic among the public, especially the traders and other foreign businessmen, because of worry about an uncertain future. At first, while I was on the way, I thought it is best to abduct Uncle and let Father replace him without making any fuss like how he did it with you. But the issue here is that Father and Uncle no longer look the same. So, that option is no longer viable. But what if you privately meet with Uncle and Mother and come to an arrangement? You will forgive their mistake. In exchange, you will get back your throne without bloodshed. The royal court will then announce that you went missing and Uncle was ruling in your place to protect the kingdom from hostile forces. Of course, Uncle will not remain in the palace. He will be reinstated as the governor of Helong province. It is on the border with Western Yan, and he will take responsibility for mending the relationship with the Phoenix Empire as penance for the betrayal. Mark was visibly surprised by her suggestion. In his mind, there are several scenarios like bombing the capital or bombing around the royal palace as a distraction to take out Shen Qiu, bombarding the enemies with missiles until they submit, or letting Alan use the might of the divine sword to cut through the enemies until he takes down the queen and the impostor queen, etc. All he could think of destroying enemies, but never expected of having a pact with the other party to have peaceful aftermath. Of course, he didn't think Shen Ling's plan was right too. Looking down on it, he commented with a simple sentence, "Princess Shen, you are too idealistic." He didn't bother to explain any further, but the princess understood what he wanted to convey. She looked at him and said, "It's because they aren't strangers, Mr. Lu, and family deserves a second chance so that they can repent on their actions. Her words made him remember his mother and other family members who he swore to destroy. Unlike Mark, who never had any memories of his real family, Shen Ling received love from her mother, and probably from her uncle too, before facing betrayal in the form of getting separated from her father. Her hatred towards the both of them should exceed him. Okay, he can understand her forgiving the queen because it is her mother whom she dearly loved, but even her uncle was forgiven. Based on the conversations he had with the princess, he didn't feel like she was a fool. But if she was right, then he will be wrong. That isn't something he wants to admit. So he responded with a question. What if one doesn't have any emotional connection with those family members from the start? Then, are they still worthy of forgiveness? This time, it was Princess Shen Ling's time to get surprised. She was only trying to justify her suggestion, so she didn't expect that kind of question from Mark. And when asked, she thought for a bit and answered, "Of course, everyone deserves an opportunity to redeem themselves, but we seldom have the heart to forgive the strangers. But we can show some mercy on close friends and family for once, unless they are hell-bent on killing you. We can at least do that much, right?" Mark didn't argue with her and stayed silent, as his conscience told him that she was right, but his heart cannot accept it, because it defeats his purpose of opening the store in Imperial City in the first place. If not for his revenge, he would have also taken it slow. As a result, he wouldn't have reached the position where he was now. Who knows? He might be an owner of a small modern weapons store whose income is majorly dependent on Lin Zu's grace. Revenge is what drives him to success. At least, that's what Mark believes at the moment. Anyway, putting his feelings for a second, he continued to listen to her plan. The princess appeared to be betting on Mark's presence to arrange the meeting between her father and uncle. Mark was prepared to even go to war to complete his quest. Acting as a bodyguard doesn't seem that difficult. Mark was actually hoping for the meeting to turn violent, as he would be able to showcase the strength of his weapons. At the same time, his reward from the king would also be a bountiful one. Meanwhile, her father reluctantly agreed to her suggestion of forgiving his brother and wife, although, in his mind, he planned to send his wife, his brother, and his family to exile after Shen Ling gets married. Very soon, the princess ignited a talisman and sent a message to her mother. When Mark saw the process of her storing the message into the talisman, he reconsidered his thoughts about the princess. Her earlier suggestion gave an impression that she has a soft heart, but now, she doesn't appear that way any longer. Mark found her character interesting. What message did she send that made Mark change his impression? Shen Ling not only asked the two of them to come to the Zhisheng city and meet them at Quanjude restaurant that Mark had earlier booked for the meeting of the king and his daughter, but she also gave them the time limit of 4 hours. As far as Mark knows, Shen Qiu left to inspect the Qincheng prison. Whether he was back or not, he wasn't sure, and neither does the princess has any idea. So, this demand of hers indicates that she doesn't plan on going soft on her family, even if she forgives them. The princess further warned her mother that in the event both of them fail to arrive in time, she and her father will publicly dethrone her uncle publicly, and reveals her conspiracy too. If that happens, as a fellow partner in crime, not only the queen would become a traitor, but also be framed for adultery due to the possibility of sleeping with Shen Qiu during the past decade. As a result, before losing her life, she will lose her dignity. Because she's the queen for decades, the future generations will also talk about her. Shen Ling never had the intention to do that. But to add psychological pressure on her mother and uncle, she neatly explained the consequences, although, for some reason, she didn't tell her mother about Mark at all. Maybe they have really been scared, or maybe they have a plan in mind. Mark didn't know. But roughly after 3.5 hours, the queen, along with Shen Qiu and some unknown elderly-looking person, reached the restaurant where the royal knights were stationed at the entrance. A royal knight escorted the three of them to the 3rd floor, where a garden is located. On the way, they discovered that there was no staff on the ground floor. It gave the impression of a closed-down restaurant at one glance. There in the open air, surrounded by fire lamps, Shen Ling and Shen Niu were sitting at the table, while Alan and Mark were standing behind them like bodyguards. Both of them wore black robes, covered their heads with hoods and faces with blank masks. Chapter 228. Attack first and then negotiate. Mark and Alan came as the guests of the palace. Then, both of them allegedly went out for a city tour early in the morning, but Mark returned alone for the lunch. Then Mark left with the princess, and hours later, the princess tells her mother that she finds the real king and warns her to come and meet them in a city that is nearly 150 kilometers away. And when her mother attends the secret meeting, she sees two mysterious people standing behind the princess and the king. Most importantly, she couldn't sense the cultivation realm of either of them, just like with the royal guests. As long as one isn't a fool, it is easy to link up everything and guess the identities of the masked men. The queen and the imposter king quickly recognized them. Mark also knew the possibility of getting found out. The princess had told him that when he wore the mask. And yet, he still bothered himself to hide his identity because of 3 reasons. 1. If the princess was wrong and the queen turned out to be not so smart, he will be successful. 2. By hiding his face, he could also hide his expressions. 3. He can save himself from the embarrassment of becoming someone's bodyguard. Thankfully, even though the queen had identified 2 masked bodyguards, she didn't place much attention on them. Her entire attention was on her husband. She was calm as she faced the king. On the other hand, Shen Qiu was inwardly nervous because of the presence of Mark as well as the mysterious expert with them. Taking the seat, the queen was the first to greet her husband. "It's been a while, dear. You look like you are in good health." King Shen Niu naturally was angered by her response. He punched the table, displaying anger on his face. "Is this what you have to say, Tan Enning?" The queen calmly responded once again. "You are standing between the Church of Doom and their grand ambition, dear. If not for me begging the elders, you would have been dead by now." The princess and the king were dumbfounded by her reaction for a moment. Shen Ling quickly said, "I think you don't have any idea what kind of situation you are in, mother. Choose your words wisely. Telling wrong things at wrong times sometimes leads to disastrous consequences." The queen didn't pay heed to her advice and just stared at her husband. "I think it's best for you to stay away from the public for 1 more year. Once we are done, you can take your throne, and I will be willing to take any punishment that you inflict upon me." "What are you planning, mother?" Shen Ling furrowed her brows. She felt like her mother is dead serious about her objective. She couldn't help but wonder what was going to happen within a year. "It doesn't concern you, Princess Shen." The mysterious expert opened his mouth this time. Stroking his slim and lengthy white beard, he further said, "We have waited for nearly 3 decades. We can't tolerate any unnecessary disturbance. I'm here to take you and your father with me. For the next year, both of you will stay as our guests. You should be thankful for Lady Tan that I'm willing to show mercy." From the start, they never had the intention to compromise. This became clear from his words. The king clenched his fist as he stared at his wife and brother. "Don't think that you can subdue me, wicked woman. I would rather die than become your prisoner once again." Soul energy gathered in his palms. He was on the verge of losing his control. It was at that moment Mark finally decided to enter the conversation. "It's the undertaking." The opposite parties raised their eyebrows as they glanced at Mark. The princess also turned her head in curiosity. "Undertaking." Mark shed a light on the truth for the daughter and father pair as he explained. "I don't know what forbidden ritual it is, but the Church of Doom is planning to sacrifice millions of citizens to resurrect their founder." His statement brought waves of surprise to both the parties, with one of them building up anger while the other was taken aback, because this was only known to selective individuals. However, he wasn't done yet. Before the queen and the mysterious expert wondered about the possibility of a traitor in their midst, Mark continued, "And the fact that the other party is confident in capturing you too is because of that legendary realm expert. If my information is right, his name is Zai Lim, of the 2 grand elders at the Church of Doom. He's 125 years old and is a fire mage. Oh, by the way, he is at the peak stage. Xylim got up from the seat in shock. Earlier, this elder was displaying arrogance, but Mark's words shook him up a bit. After all, except for the other Grand Elder, no one in the organization knows his age. Looking at the masked bodyguard in wariness, he asked, "Who the hell are you?" Now that he had already given away his identity by speaking out in his real voice, he took off the mask and answered, "Just an ordinary weapons seller, but at this moment I'm responsible for the safety of these two. Apart from that, there's nothing for you to know." Shen Qiu, who was silent until now, tilted his head and whispered in Xylim's ear, "Lord Zai, he is Lu Zhen, the guy I told you earlier." Xylim's coolness once again returned upon hearing it. He was wary of the two masked individuals from the start as he cannot gauge their cultivation. But now that he knows that Mark is in Exalt Realm, 7th Circle, he changed his plan from killing him to capturing him. Proceeding to summon a semi-divine staff, Xylim looked at Mark. "Along with the two of them, you two are coming with me, Lu Zhen." Princess Shen Ling and King Shen Niu were filled with nervousness. Previously, they thought that they can depend on Mark, or at worst, the princess decided to use her trump card, the Demon Scroll. However, Xylim turning out to be in a legendary realm made her change the strategy. "Father, take this." She took out the scroll from her storage ring and handed it to Shen Niu. "Use this in an emergency." Seeing her actions, the queen warned her, "Don't bother Xiao Ling. Before coming here, Elder Zai had set up an anti-teleportation barrier. You cannot use teleportation scrolls to escape. Moreover, we have several priests spread all over the place. Even if you try to get away, we'll catch you all. Dear, don't resist and come with us in peace." "Wicked woman," the king growled in response. His anger was at its peak because of the Church of Doom's plan to massacre innocent citizens. "No matter what, I will not let you succeed." "Weaklings don't have the choice, brother. It is the same for an ordinary citizen or a king." Shen Qiu advised his brother to follow his example and just do as the church wants. All of a sudden, without any warning, a lightning bolt descended from the sky and struck an unprepared mage, Xylim, right on top of his head. "This is why I suggested that it is better to attack first and then negotiate," Mark mumbled to himself as he stared at the ash. Chapter 229. Write down my address. A moment ago, the city of Zhishang was bustling with people. With a city built at the shores of the ocean, people from northern empires, especially the civilian merchants and strong adventurers, do business here. The civilian merchants don't have ether energy and hence cannot store them in a storage ring. Instead, they transport here through the boats. The foreign adventurers who wanted to sell corpses also come through the large ships because of the limited space in the storage rings. As one of the 3 ports of the Western Moon Kingdom, Zhishang was also famous for marine food markets. Thousands of fishermen from the nearby islands come and do business here. In a nutshell, it's hard for the central region of this city to not be crowded with people. Just like every day, tourists, natives, adventurers, and all types of people are roaming the neighborhood. With the news of the royal knights stationed at a popular restaurant passed around, naturally, a large crowd gathered at the entrance to see what was going on. The people's enthusiasm increased when they heard that the restaurant is currently occupied by the royal family. They thought that the king and his family came here for dining. However, to their surprise, all of a sudden, a lightning bolt descended from the skies and struck the restaurant. The terrifying flash of lightning made a few people go temporarily blind, while the others started running away in fear after they heard a powerful rumble in the sky. Who doesn't fear natural disasters? Fortunately for them, after that, the sky became calm, and the crowd slowly gathered once again as the restaurant was completely intact. Some of them started wondering whether the king is okay, while some were hoping for the king to be struck by lightning and considered it a punishment from the heavens. Meanwhile, on the 3rd floor's garden dining area, the supposed royal family members were stunned by the sudden development and went into a daze as the supposed legendary realm expert from the Church of Doom was struck by lightning and turned to ash. All of them were thinking of the same thing. What the hell just happened? Because it is natural lightning, they wondered whether it is a coincidence. But before they digested it, Mark opened his mouth, this time while giving a cold gaze to his enemies. There's a reason I have chosen an open spot like this. Queen Tan, Shen Qiu. What? All of them looked at him in disbelief. How did you know that the lightning will strike at this spot? Shen Qiu was the first to erupt. In response, Mark stared at him in silence for a couple of moments and asked, "Are you an idiot?" "What, you?" As Shen Qiu's face turned red as he was scolded, the princess let out a smile. "I knew that you can use ice and lightning attributes, but didn't expect that you are also a lightning mage, Mr. Lu. You aren't an Exalt realm as everyone believed it, right?" Well, she clearly misunderstood his strength, but Mark didn't have any plans to correct her. He stayed silent and let her believe whatever she wanted to believe. But then again, if one thinks about it, she was also right. He was only a 5-circle summoner. With the Amulet of Magic, his stats were equal to that of a 6-circle. And finally, the Thunderblast had a 150% attack power, bringing his attack power to over 9-circle. He was indeed an overpowered spirit warrior. As for why Zai Lim was dead instantly despite being an 8-circle realm expert in peak stage, it is because he was unprepared. A prepared mage is as powerful as 10 warriors of the same realm, but an unprepared mage is even weaker than a warrior of a below realm. Zai Lim might have been an 8-circle realm spirit warrior, but he is still a mage. His defense is a lot lesser than even a 6-circle realm spirit warrior of fighter path. Maybe, if he had been prepared for the incoming attack by shielding himself with ether energy shield or some defensive skill, he wouldn't have probably ended up dead. But Mark didn't give him such an opportunity. As soon as he realized that Zai Lim was an enemy, he silently ambushed him with the Thunderblast to take him away and turned around the situation. And now, Princess Shen Ling and King Shen Niu were in high spirits while Queen Tan Enning and Grand Prince Shen Qiu became nervous. Seeing the legs of Shen Qiu shaking in fear while he was inwardly cursing the Prime Minister who invited Mark to this kingdom, the princess calmed her heart and took her seat. "Okay, I think both of you will now be ready to listen to my proposition." Like her father, she was also angry at her mother and uncle, but this meeting made her realize that her mother doesn't want to harm them. Tan Enning might have been evil enough to sacrifice millions of innocents, but still, she was the reason Shen Niu was alive. Shen Ling was smart enough to understand that simple logic. That's why she tried to deal with the situation in a calm manner. On the other hand, the king couldn't control his emotions. Letting out his ether energy wildly, he roared, "Tan Enning, it isn't enough for you to lock me up and separate me from my daughter for a decade. You still want to imprison me again. In front of the enormous strength of your organization, my ancestors might have left with no choice but to shelter you people in our land. However, your organization had decided to break the sacred oath by not only interfering in the internal matters of the kingdom, but also harming the lives of innocents. Enough is enough. Everything ends now. I will cede the disputed territories. I will even accept whatever unfair demands the empires would place before me. No matter what, I will make sure to erase the Church of Doom from my land. As for you two, Wait for a second, father." Shen Ling hurriedly stopped him from proceeding any further. She doesn't want him to announce any punishment because she feared that it will completely break apart her family. As she earlier said to Mark, she wants her mother and uncle to repent of their actions. At the same time, she wants this matter to stay secret in order to protect the dignity of the royal family. That's why, after stopping her father, she quickly stated the original conditions to both of them. While Tan Enning digested it pretty quickly, feeling that her daughter is showing mercy on her, Shen Qiu, on the other hand, went into a daze for a while. He was expecting to be thrown at Qincheng prison. So in case the king announces his punishment, he was ready to retaliate by summoning the undead and escape. But to his surprise, nothing happened as he feared. Not only he was pardoned for his betrayal, but he will also keep his dignity as he passes the throne to the real king. It is good for him, except for the fact that the decision-making isn't in his hands. The queen is the one who put him on the throne. So, Shen Qiu looked at his sister-in-law to hear what she has to say. For that one moment, seeing the calmness on the queen, Mark thought that they were Tan Enning and Shen Ling were really mother and daughter. As Mark and others wondered what the queen was thinking deeply when there was no punishment for her at all, the latter turned her head to look at Mark instead of her daughter. With a serious expression on her face, she spoke, "By killing Elder Zai, you have really brought doom upon yourself, Lu Zhen. Had you not been involved in this matter, everything would have gone well. You don't know what kind of danger you have invited upon yourself. Now, be prepared to face the consequences." "Write down my address." Mark simply responded by letting out a fake smile while crossing his arms to the chest. "Plot number 16, alley number 11, Hanga District, Imperial City, Phoenix Empire. Whether it is to buy a weapon or settle down the disputes, I'll happily welcome friends and enemies alike. So you don't need to worry about me. Pray for your fellow members of the church that I won't get lucky during the next couple of weeks. Otherwise, these hands will raze your church to the ground, whether the empires take action on you or not." Even the princess didn't fully comprehend the meaning behind his statement, but she was sure of one thing. He is going to do something big in the upcoming weeks. Chapter 230, Submarine or Destroyer. A few hours later. In the capital city of Lunaris, at midnight when people were supposed to sleep, thousands were gathered at the palace grounds as the king was about to make an important announcement. Everything went as the princess wanted it to be. After informing the ministers, Shen Qiu made an announcement of the king's return to the public, handing over the crown in front of everyone. Just like with the ministers, the people went into disbelief for a while. Shen Niu then took the charge and explained to everyone the story cooked up by the princess. According to his version, a decade ago, during the time of the rebellion by the former Supreme General Xuan Yi, the king was poisoned by a servant who was actually a spy of the leader of the rebellion. As a result, he was sent away through a secret tunnel so that he can be healed in a safe place. Although he escaped death, the king, unfortunately, was gone into a deep unconscious state coma for nearly 10 years and finally woke up because of Lu Zhen. And in this time, to protect the throne from possible internal and external enemies, Shen Qiu had taken the king's place with the help of Queen Tan Enning. Originally, the princess had a slightly different story in her mind, in which Shen Niu personally appointed his brother as a temporary king. But after the meeting, she changed it so that for the public, it will appear like Shen Qiu was entirely responsible for the decisions that were made during the past decade. This new story was largely welcomed by the public and ministers who were dissatisfied with Shen Qiu's rule. Zhu Jianhong, the prime minister of the kingdom, was happier than ever as he saw the real king on the throne. It means that he doesn't have to bear the attitude of Shen Qiu any longer. As for Mark, he successfully completed his quest and was also promised by the king a handsome reward in private for not only saving him and bringing his consciousness back, but also for saving him once again from Zai Lim. In fact, neither Shen Qiu nor Shen Niu had expected that the queen will bring a legendary realm expert with her. If Mark wouldn't be there to take action, both of them would probably be imprisoned now. For that, the king was grateful to him and asked him to name anything as a reward. Mark didn't make haste in replying to that and told him that he will give his answer the next morning before he returns home. The king agreed to it. Anyway, the announcement was over, and the people returned to their homes in joy. Mark and Alan also returned to their respective guest rooms. Mark then locked his room and sat on the bed while opening the quest list. Okay, now is the time to choose the reward, submarine or a destroyer. Mark still hadn't cleared his doubt. Now that he completed the quest, he asked the system about the rewards. The system gave him a quick reply. Ding, the host has a choice. For both the rewards, you can pick either a single ether-powered warship or a normal warship that can be mass-produced by the system and sold to the customers. Now, this complicates the things. Mark realized that it is different from what he expected. If it is something decided by the system, he can make use of it at his convenience, but since he was given a choice, Mark knew that he cannot make a wrong step. Both have advantages and disadvantages. If I had to choose an ether-powered warship, a submarine would be a better choice as there will be super powerful beasts living at the depths of the ocean. But a large part of the ocean is unexplored. It will be a risky adventure, and mass-produced normal submarines will stand no chance. On the other hand, destroyers will be good in huge numbers. Most of the powerful marine beasts won't come to the surface either way, and I can even rule the ocean's surface if I make my moves right. The only problem is that I'm not sure if the king would give me the reward that I'm hoping to receive. He gave his word for sure, but the hearts of humans are unpredicted. No, the Western Moon needed my support. If I don't stand with them, then they won't have a chance against the Church of Doom. As for the empires, each emperor will only think of the best interests of his people. Who dares to send soldiers to the death for the sake of Shen Niu? An intelligent woman like Shen Ling would also realize it by now. Okay. For the sake of defending the territory, I have to make this choice. Mark proceeded to click on Destroyer. Ding, choose a type. Destroyer V Ether/Kid Class Destroyer mass-produced. Kid Class? Mark felt like he had heard of it but was not sure where. If there was one thing he was sure of, it is that this is probably the first vehicle that doesn't belong to the Eurasian Federation, which was formed after World War III and where he worked in his past life. Either way, he made the decision, so he clicked on the mass-produced destroyer. Ding, Kid Class Destroyer has been unlocked. Please check out the gallery for details. Ding, you unlocked 127 ammunition. Ding, you unlocked RIM-66 Standard Missile. Ding, you unlocked the Harpoon Missile Anti-Ship. Ding, you unlocked MK-46 Torpedo. Closing down the window, Mark excitedly opened the gallery and searched for the brightly lit items and clicked on the ship-looking image. Below the image of a destroyer, the details appeared. Name, Kid Class Destroyer. Type, Guided Missile Destroyer. Grade, NA. Displacement, full, 9,782,954 kg, tilde 9,783 tons. Length, 172 meters, 563 ft. Beam, 17 meters, 55 ft. Draft, 9.6 meters, 31, 5 ft. Max speed, 61 km/h. Range, 6,000 km, 11,000 depends on the type of fuel and speed of the ship. Fuel capacity, 32,000 liters. Armament, I-2X 5-inch, 127-54 caliber Mk-45 dual-purpose guns, 20-round capacity. II-2X Mk-26 launchers for RIM-66 missile. II-2X-20 CIWS close-in weapon system, Mk-15 cannons. IV-2X Mk-141 quadruple harpoon missile canisters. V-2X Mk-32 triple 12.75 in 320-form torpedo tubes. Aviation facility, flight deck and hangar for helicopters. Description: this mighty warship is capable of destroying enemies under the Seven Circle realm with its firepower. Price: 35,000 gold coins. Create: 35,000 gold coins. That's even 7 times the PHZ-2000 howitzer, which delivers the same results, but then again, this has a greater range. Maybe I can install a couple of howitzers on the ship deck and use them to my advantage. This world doesn't have the same weapons that I can access anyway. Mark wanted to create one, but at the last second, he controlled his urge upon remembering that he doesn't need this warship at the moment. Not to mention, there will be unnecessary heavy debt. After deciding to create it when it was necessary, he closed down the gallery and everything before going to sleep. Of course, he didn't forget to contact Elena to know the situation over in the city. Seeing that everything is fine, Mark wondered about Lin Zhu's mission for a while and then slept soundly.